Have you heard about the CrowdStrike situation? Oh my gosh. Well, let's take a second and let's talk about it. So, I woke up to this news, and it's always interesting to wake up to some of this major news, especially in the cybersecurity world when things just get taken down, they're inoperable, whether that's from a hack or just from, other situations that happen. So this is quite bad. So let's go ahead and pull up the article here and let's walk through it so we can talk about what happened if you don't know or dive a little bit deeper into it. So this article, CrowdStrike update causes havoc, grounding flights and disrupting businesses. So the biggest IT outage in recent memory, a faulty CrowdStrike update triggered a global tech meltdown, grounding flights, disrupting banks, and crippling businesses. Dive deep into the causes, impacts, and recovery efforts of this historic tech outage for this article. So right here, seemingly minor software update by CrowdStrike intended to enhance security jolted the global IT infrastructure on Friday, marking history's biggest ever IT outage, impacting banks, airlines, hospitals, and media outlets worldwide. They say it's reminiscent of AWS service disruption, which, if you don't remember that, or maybe you weren't focusing on cybersecurity at that point, that was a major thing as well. There was a minor typo in some of the code and things that were pushed out. And basically, it took down a lot of AWS infrastructure. That was a major thing because AWS runs a lot of the things on the internet from a cloud perspective. So, of course, that's going to be a major thing. Now, this, if you don't know what CrowdStrike is specifically, CrowdStrike has things like endpoint protection for systems, so agents and things like that, different softwares for security, and maintaining your security infrastructure and making sure that you can detect attacks and all those kinds of things. So essentially, that's what it is. There's a lot of services that are out there like that. There's SolarWinds. There's like IT monitoring, and so there's a bunch of these IT kind of centric services, and essentially that's what it is. So the article says reportedly the outage caused Windows-based PCs and computer systems to reboot, network disruptions, and displaying the dreaded blue screen of death, while Microsoft users were impacted worldwide. Mac and Linux hosts are safe. So if we're thinking about all the operating systems that are out there, especially in enterprise environments, because CrowdStrike specializes in enterprise environments and enterprise services. But when we're talking about all those operating systems that are out there, predominantly a lot of the businesses that are out there are going to run Windows. And so that makes it just inherently a really bad situation. If anything impacts those Windows environments or causes widespread blue screens of death, that's why we see with Windows patches, when those are released and we start seeing blue screens of death and all those kinds of things, that's a bad thing. People start to kind of step back that process and stop deploying those patches until there's a fix, because that obviously will take down an entire organization if they're all Windows, especially. Now it says CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz states that this massive Microsoft outage was caused by an update to CrowdStrike's Falcon sensor. So that's one of their offerings. This issue has been isolated and a fix has been deployed. CrowdStrike is currently working with customers affected by a single content update for Windows hosts. So let's think about this. Typically, with not just Windows, with any update, especially to operating systems, but applications can apply to this as well, you are not just going to mass deploy some update and hope that it goes well. That just doesn't happen. Typically what happens is you want to deploy things in phases and kind of roll it out slowly, because if you deploy it to non-critical systems, because that's where you would start, and then all of a sudden they start to blue screen of death and they start to crash, they go completely out, well, then you know that you should take that back. You should not just continue to deploy that patch because it's going to cause widespread issues across your whole network then. And then you're going to be in a world of hurt. So that is the typical way that you would deploy patches or updates. And it sounds like, based on everything that I've seen with this specific situation and this article, that this update was just pushed out. It was, hey, hey, this needs to be updated, and here we go. We're going to install it. And then, of course, when that happens, first of all, again, terrible practice. You would never just want to roll out a patch to everywhere, especially when it's a critical system like this, or something that is embedded or installed on so many systems. You would never just do that. That makes absolutely no sense. That's just bad IT 101. Now, with that being said, let's see here. Let's keep going in this article. The quote here, the bug has affected many stock exchanges, supermarkets, and flight operations across the globe. Users are experiencing the blue screen of death, BSOD error, which is causing their systems to shut down or restart unexpectedly. So if you've never seen a blue screen of death in Windows, well, I would be surprised. Maybe you just started using Windows, but pretty much everybody has seen a blue screen of death because something happens, some kind of condition, and then the screen just turns blue. Now on like Windows 11, they've even added these frowning faces and to say, oh, unfortunately, you've reached a blue screen of death. Now you need to restart the computer. But Microsoft is well known for blue screens of death. That is kind of the one thing that we all can relate to with Windows systems. But that makes the system inoperable. You cannot do anything with the screen. Like, it completely locks up the screen, and it's just a complete blue screen with text and a little bit of information about what happened and those kinds of things. But you can't do anything on it. So especially when we're talking about airports and banks and things that on a daily basis, on a minute or second basis, people are using and they need it to operate, that is catastrophic. If you've ever been to the airport and you see the ticket terminals, and obviously those are running some kind of operating system, basically they're running Windows under the hood. When those cannot be used, that's a difficult situation. If they have to then be restarted, every time that happens, that's an issue. With this, you basically, and I'm not sure if it goes into this in this article, we'll see here, but there's basically a manual process that they have to go through in order to undo this update, which is crazy. And think about if you couldn't even do that. If you couldn't even get into the system to undo it, you just had basically a paperweight at that point. Well, that would be an issue. Let's keep going in this article. Let's see what else this has. So there's a image here. I believe this is a tweet. Yep, Twitter. Microsoft CrowdStrike outage has taken down most airports in India. I got my first handwritten boarding pass today. Now, I've talked about before when critical business processes go down, and the idea of do you have a manual process where you're manually writing out things? When I used to rent cars, we had a manual process to actually go through and write up the ticket and kind of take the authorization for the credit card, but that isn't really, if you're just taking the copy of it, you're not verifying that or validating that. That's a serious issue because you're not validating the funds. Same kind of situation in here. You have this boarding pass. How are you able to validate that? I'd be curious to know more about how they actually got that information, because obviously on this image, they, and bring up the screen here, they, obviously on this image, they were able to get this information. You can't really see specifically what it is. It's a little bit blurry, but it's probably things like flight information, the flight number, the date, the class, all those kinds of things, the seat number. But you're handwriting this in there. So as far as like security and like the United States especially, I've been to the airport quite a bit, this would not fly. This would not be permitted because we have, extensive security here in the US for our airlines and airports especially, to make sure that whatever you're doing or that your ticket, that information on there, to make sure that that is valid. We've even gone so far as to actually we have scanning systems right at the security entry point so that they can scan that and make sure that you have a valid ticket, those kinds of things. But then also now we're starting to do ID verification. So I would be curious how that's affected, because essentially now you can just give your driver's license or whatever your ID is, and they can scan that through this other system, and then that is able to pull all the information that they need to validate the ticket information. So this is quite interesting with a handwritten ticket. Cybersecurity researcher Kevin Beaumont posted on X that CrowdStrike is the cause of the global IT outage, not Microsoft, as the EDR product is used by large organizations worldwide. CyberNo reports that a decent amount of Australian internet banking and media outlets are affected, and the issue is a technical glitch rather than cyber attack from China or APT4. I don't know that I would say it's a glitch. It's just it's a bad code base. It's a bad update with some faulty code that is causing this issue with the operating system. So, and this is a worldwide issue. That's the other thing. It's like, it's not just, oh, this affected a certain company or something like that, just affected CrowdStrike. This affected the entire country essentially, because airports and banks and everything like that, that's a global issue. And certainly we hope that that hasn't opened the door for attackers to do something. But you never know in situations like this, sometimes with the results and kind of the repercussions of what happened with that. Certainly, I'm sure there's going to be a fix for this and maybe some additional processes and procedures put into place to avoid having the same thing happen again, hopefully. Now, this is where it gets interesting also. Spectator Index reports that payment systems were also affected in the UK, Australia, and other parts of the world. In addition, 911 services were disrupted in many U.S. states, including Ohio, Arizona, Alaska, Indiana, Minnesota, and New Hampshire. Fault sent Sky News off the air and impacted services at the London Stock Exchange. According to Down Detector, a website that tracks internet outages, growing network disruptions were recorded at Visa, looks like ADT, ADT Security, and Amazon. So 911 services, that's where it gets even more critical, because 911 services have to remain online. If you don't know, in the United States, 911 is basically our emergency system to contact the authorities, police, ambulances, emergency services, basically those kinds of things, fire departments. And you call, you say, hey, I have an issue, whatever, and then they deploy resources appropriate to whatever is being reported. So for that not to work, that is a serious concern. We talked about availability of systems, and 911 systems are ones in the United States that those just can't go down. If you've ever worked with things that have to interact with those kinds of systems, those have a very high ability requirement. Anytime that human life is on the line, those have a very high availability requirement, and they just cannot go down. You have redundancy upon redundancy upon redundancy to make sure that those systems are continuing to operate, and that something happening will not be catastrophic and take those down. So it's a serious issue whenever anything like that comes into play. And honestly, when stuff like that comes into play too, I would almost guarantee that the government in some way is probably going to want to investigate and be involved, because that's a serious issue for the United States and for any government. But maybe that it's not 911 in your country, it's something else if you live in somewhere else other than the US. Let's see here. Microsoft, for its part, acknowledged the disruption and attributed it to a third-party issue without explicitly naming CrowdStrike. Microsoft reported an outage in the central US region affecting a subset of customers with multiple Azure services. So certainly as a company, you want to be careful about outing some other third-party company or whatever it is, if you can, because ideally you don't want to make those relationships bad or anything like that. But obviously, with something like this, we're going to know that it's CrowdStrike. We don't need Microsoft to announce that. It's pretty obvious that that's what's going on. But even this, Microsoft 365 apps and services experienced disruptions for hours on Friday. The company is currently, which is today, investigating the issue and attempting to fix it and give gradual relief to its users. In a series of posts on X, Microsoft stated that they're trying to reroute the impacted traffic to healthy alternate systems to expedite the remediation efforts. CrowdStrike is used in so many locations, so it's not surprising that it's so widespread. And again, there's going to be a lot of investigation around this, how this was able to go out. Again, I'm telling you, anytime things affect the government, and especially 911 services where things are so critical, there's going to be additional investigations into this, no doubt. But also, they should not have been able to just push out a patch everywhere. That's just dangerous. Again, that is such a bad practice. That is just so bad. And then here's some additional tweets. We'll keep going through these. CrowdStrike is actively working with customers impacted by a defect found in a single content update for Windows hosts. Mac and Linux are not impacted. This is not a security incident or cyber attack. The issue has been identified, isolated, and a fix has been deployed. So there you go. Fix has been deployed to those that are impacted. Make sure you get that fix. Again, the things that I saw as far as getting rid of the old version or the old update is you actually had to go in, and I believe it was you had to enable safe mode to disable that patch or delete that patch. So again, that's going to take work. That's manual effort to go in there and do that on systems that are affected. And that is from George Kurtz, the CEO. From CyberNode, decent amount of Australian internet banking and media outlets. So we've talked about that. They list a whole bunch of them. Some that we've heard about, some that I have not ever heard about. AWS, Azure, some major companies. Somebody says, I created a simple group policy, GPO, to automatically fix CrowdStrike blue screen of death issue. So that's a good fix here. You can see starting to delay flights, cancel flights. This is the Reagan National Airport. This one says, American Airlines, United, and Delta Airlines have just implemented a global ground stop on all flights due to the current significant Microsoft outage that's occurring. So think about this too. With airports, one of the things that happens is all of these airlines, these planes, they go to different airports. They kind of just rotate around to all these different locations. And so if they did not stop the flights from leaving and kind of pause things, you might end up with an airport that is just overloaded with airplanes. Think about a really busy airport, something like JFK or LAX, and these are of course just airports in the United States. But all of these major airports around the world, if you start getting these a whole bunch of planes, especially with the shorter flights, it's not going to be as much relevant to the international aspect of this, because obviously if you're going to go from JFK to like London or something like that, it's going to take quite a bit of time if you're in the air. It's probably going to be fixed by that point. But if you're talking about shorter domestic flights and kind of bouncing around, you don't want one of these airports to just have all of these planes just piled up at the airport, because that's going to create issues. You're not going to have enough gates or terminals, basically the tarmacs. You're not going to have enough of these things to offload people from these planes. They're just going to have to sit in there. And so that does people no good. It is much better for people to sit in the airport than on the plane, for sure. This is biggest IT outage in history. Microsoft, here's their quote, we're investigating the issue. Jake Williams says, okay, I'm just going to throw this out there, but maybe, just maybe, a vendor having the ability to change every one of their kernel drivers in the field at the same time without any approval from IT end users is a model we need to reconsider. Absolutely, and that's what I was talking about. This whole idea of being able to deploy patches to everything is such a terrible, 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 terrible idea. So, and there's a whole bunch of other quotes about it and some additional comments here. So bad, so bad. Hopefully this is able to get fixed very quickly. It sounds like there's already a fix out there that you can deploy. You just have to find out how to revert that old patch, get rid of that thing, and start deploying the current patch that allegedly fixes it. But again, when widespread issues like this happen, it is so bad. That's why you have to test your patches. You have to roll them out in phases. You cannot deploy patches across all of your assets. That is just such a terrible idea, and one that CrowdStrike is going to have to learn the hard way, that that's just a terrible idea. That's a terrible practice for especially the kind of system or service that they're providing. So with that being said, keep tracking this issue, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cybertraining Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. Cybertrainingpro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community, where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today.